What's up, everyone? Welcome to This Day in Philly Sports History for November 26, 2022. Big win for the Upper Dublin Cardinals last night. They beat the Ruston Knights 21-7. They now have advanced to the Eastern Conference. I guess it's conference. The Eastern final for the PIAA State Championship. They'll play either Imhotep Charter from the city or Whitehall, which I believe is up in the Allentown area. They play in Germantown today, so should be a good game. They are now 14-0. That actually the touchdown that Rustin scored late yesterday, I was watching it on YouTube. It's the first touchdown they've given up in the playoffs. So defensively, they've been playing pretty well. It was kind of a physical game. Interesting game. The lights went out, and it was so windy there, and it was not windy here at all. So just kind of interesting how that worked out. But congrats to the Fighting Cardinals of Upper Dublin, who move on. They're now 2 wins away from a state championship, which is pretty cool. The Sixers won 107-99. It's good to see those bench players getting some reps and playing well while Harden, Maxey, and Joel have been out. So I think Joel should be coming back soon. Same with Harden. So hopefully this will translate and parlay into something they need excuse me, after the first of the year. They can kind of get together and go on a run. Flyers lost their 9th straight last night. As we kind of talked about, they are falling back to earth now, which, like we keep saying, it's good for their draft status and their lottery things. But they lost to the Penguins 4-1 last night. They're back in action tonight against the Islanders, so not an easy task by any stretch of the imagination. And yes, this is a Philly sports podcast, but got the Michigan Wolverines playing today. It's the only non-Philly team I like. I'll get into that, I guess, at some point, but go blue. But on this day in 2015, the Eagles played Thanksgiving Day in Detroit. They lost 45-14. And it just was a complete and total disaster. That entire season was just one big clusterfuck. That was Chip Kelly's final year when he actually had full control of the team and made some decisions. That was when he cut or traded Nick Foles, Trent Cole, LaShawn McCoy, let Jeremy Maclin walk. It just was a complete and total disaster of a season. And if you remember, that's where he brought in Ryan Matthews, why can't I think of it? DeMarco Murray, and basically tried to run it like a college team, and it just blew up in their face. Mark Sanchez was the quarterback. Sam Bradford, it just was a hot mess. But we did talk a little bit. We had a whole episode of that on Back to the Future. So if you haven't done so already and interested in knowing more about the whole Chip Kelly fiasco, go back and look at some of the past episodes of Back to the Future, anywhere you get your podcasts. Not much went right for the Eagles that day. Like I said, Sanchez was the quarterback, threw for 199 yards and 2 touchdowns, one to Brent Selleck, one to Jordan Matthews. He lost a fumble, was sacked 6 times. Specifically remember going to my in-laws, and it just was a complete and total disaster. My son was just born, so my wife had gone to help get everything set up. So I came up later with him. We're listening to him. By the time I got to their house, they were down like 21-7. It was pretty bad. Stafford was a complete and total beast that day. Threw for 337 and 5 touchdowns, 3 to Calvin Johnson. If I remember correctly, I think I was playing against one of them in fantasy, which didn't help. But as always, it just going back to that, it was just a complete and total disaster, especially because Detroit always plays the 12:30 game. And you get excited. All right, the Eagles are playing. At least if they were playing the Cowboys, it would have been later in the day. But it just not a good Thanksgiving from a football standpoint. Just not a good season from an Eagles standpoint. That loss dropped them to 4-7. They ended up finishing 79, but that was Chip Kelly got fired after the loss to Washington in Week 16. I will say, and this is why I think it's important for you guys to go back and listen to the podcast if you haven't already. Not everything about that whole Chip Kelly year was bad. He did sign Byron Maxwell, which on the field was shit, but they were able to use Byron Maxwell in a trade to Miami for the 8th pick, which in turn ended up being they used that to get the 2nd pick, which is how they got Carson Wentz, which whatever you want to say about him, he was a big reason why they were in position when he got hurt to win the Super Bowl. He re-signed Brandon Graham that year, and we know how Brandon Graham played a role in the Super Bowl. Actually, still playing pretty decent to this day. He drafted Aguilar and Jordan Hicks, and Nelson Aguilar actually, if you look back at it, that was his one shining moment, one shining season that year. So he played well. Jordan Hicks played well that year until he blew his ACL or Achilles heel out. So it wasn't all bad. Obviously, on the field, it was atrocious, but some of the moves he made, even though it would have been nice to have LaShawn McCoy or one of those guys, Nick Foles ended up coming back anyway. Like I said, he re-signed Brandon Graham. The whole Jordan Hicks and Nelson Aguilar, they played big roles. Parlaying Byron Maxwell in for Carson Wentz help. So wasn't totally bad for Chip. I mean, it was pretty bad, but not 100% bad. But on this day in 2015, the Eagles got smoked on Thanksgiving by the Lions 45-14 in what would become Chip Kelly's last year as head coach of the Eagles. So go enjoy your Saturday. Getting ready for Thanksgiving Part 3. We have Friendsgiving later this afternoon. We did win our United States bet yesterday. We took them plus the goal and a half. I mean, it was juicy, but I mean, it was the only bright spot I had. I lost my ass betting. I got greedy, got the patriotic USA fever, and it was a 0-0 draw. So, but again, have yourselves a Saturday. Go blue. And until the next time, I'll see you when I see you.